See out of Mitch today, it's been some solid starts from your starting staff.
Yeah, solid starts recently, and Mitch has had some really good ones. Just really looking forward to him doing what he's done, establishing that fastball, throwing his sweeper, and mixing things up and getting ahead of guys in the count, I think is key.
Is it going to be weird to see Quinn Priester in a different uniform today?
Yeah, definitely got to see him in spring training when he was with the Red Sox before he got traded over here to Milwaukee. Obviously a big prospect for us, and traded him last summer, but has good stuff, and looking forward to our guys battling him today.
When a team plays a former player, who has the benefit in that familiarity? Is it the guys who have seen him pitch, or is it the pitcher who has seen the guys hit?
Interesting. I'm not sure. I think that our guys not having faced him maybe a lot, maybe in spring training and live BPs or whatnot. So tough to say, but there's going to be some familiarity, and having maybe they've seen him in live BPs, which may help the hitters.
When you were playing, did you feel like you had more success or less success against guys who were once your teammates?
Oof, good question. I'm not sure. I'd have to look back on that.
We touched on it a little bit yesterday, but just how impressed have you been with the quality of that bat that IKF's provided this season?
Really good. The way that he's been able to stay inside it, drive it to right like he showed yesterday, hit the double the other day down the line, really has had really good at bats, and been solid for us, and moving around too, being sometimes down that 8-9, but the other day had him up in the 2-hole and had really good at bats, hit that double like we said.
Adam Frazier's also given some really quality at bats, and this is a guy that started the season probably thinking he was more in a bench role, but circumstance happened, he has to be relied upon. How have you seen him sort of just rise to this occasion and continue to provide some consistency when needed?
What a baseball player, and when you're talking about the at bats, the defense, the way he runs the bases. I mean, yesterday the lead off a third and scoring on that wild pitch there. He goes about it the right way, works hard every single day, and brings that grit to the team that we need, and in order to continue to build and grow and get better, and he's been tremendous for us this year.
Oneil, listening to Cruz talk last night, Morales was actually mentioning that he was kind of busting Oneil's chops about the home run. Is Oneil somebody that you have to kind of push his buttons and maybe not light a match under him, but how do you have to manage him to motivate him, to get him in a good spot? Morales is, again, pushing his buttons. How do you take a guy like Cruz and get him to a good space?
Yeah, they have a great relationship, and Morales is able to do that. Oneil, as we've seen, continues to get better. He continues to work hard. When we talk about the defense, he's motivated. He's motivated to get better. Sometimes, shows it in different ways, but he cares, he wants to win, and he's out there working every single day. When we talk about his approach at the plate too, talked about the walks last night and the stolen bases to go along with the power. Just the way that he's developed from, when he first came up to now is light years from what he was, and just looking forward to him continuing to do that. And he's self-motivated too, but Morales and the staff, different ways to find ways to motivate him.
Tony, when you guys moved Oneil to the leadoff spot, you knew he was going to be one of your top home run hitters and RBI producers. Was there anybody that you looked at around baseball and said, this is a good example of why this is a move that could work? On top of all the traits you just mentioned about the base running, the base stealing, and getting him more bats at the top of the order. Was there anybody that you looked at as whether it was a comparable or whether it was an inspiration in saying, this is a guy, despite his ability to drive in runs, could still be really effective at the top of the order?
Yeah, no doubt. For me, out being in Houston in 19 with George Springer, having that ability he was a center fielder, could steal some bases, but also could put you up 1-0 first at bat of the game. So and not that was the sole reason. I think you laid out some of those of why we felt comfortable and confident in Oneil going to the top with, in his approach has been better. He has drawn some walks. He does have the power. He can steal some bases. There's a lot of good things. And that number one spot's going to come up more often than any other spot. So trying to get him to the top to get that. But somebody like George comes to mind for me that had that power, had speed, could do this very similar things that Oneil is able to do.
Because I was going to say, like Kyle Schwarber is like an unorthodox leadoff hitter, but he's made become effective in that role. Is that Is it kind of people viewing that spot now differently?
Yeah, I think so. And when you have a guy up there like that, and with Schwarb, like obviously a great hitter, a lot of power, draws walks, and then when you add Oneil's speed into it, where he has the ability to steal bases and score on doubles, it's just a good fit up there at the top for us.
Donnie, just what do you attribute Cruz's just pretty exponentially increased walk rate to? Is it just a matter of just improved plate discipline? Are there certain pitches that he's doing better at laying off? Just how has he been able to really start drawing a lot more walks this year?
I think it's overall just being able to I think it started last year with left-handers, kind of struggled there at the beginning, and the hitting guys did a lot of real good work with him on that and being able to recognize pitches and see pitches. I wouldn't say it's necessarily related to one pitch, because he's taken some fastballs in that have been balls. He's laid off some balls beneath the zone, and he has the uncanny ability. Left-handers typically struggle with the pitch up, and he is really good at hitting that. Like the pitch that Peralta threw yesterday isn't an easy pitch for anybody to hit, especially a left-hander, and for him to be able to recognize it, and he drives it out of the park to right center. Then he's able to spit on balls down and in. I think it's just overall ability to recognize pitches and develop as a hitter.
The team-wide offensive slump kind of coincided with Cruz's injury, and then a couple as he was breaking off the rust from that injury. Obviously, it's a team-wide thing, but just how important is it to have him at his best for the entire offense to reach its potential?
Yeah, I think with Cruz, Reynolds, Kutch, all those guys at the top, Brian has been having great at bats too. So you bring Cruz back. Yeah, he had the tough games there in Philly. Really good pitching too, like we talked about. The way that he's been able to get back into it, get the rhythm back, the timing, and square balls up. I mean, Brian as well, having those big at bats yesterday. When Kutch hits a double, Brian knocks him in right away, and we're back to 3-3. Those are the key moments that finding ways for those guys to do that, and then obviously Oneil having the big at bat in the ninth, being able to tie that up. What a swing!
Ferguson's gone a couple appearances in a row now without allowing a hit. Just what have you seen? What have you made of his recent appearances after a bit of a rough one against the Mets recently?
Yeah, he did a great job last night. I mean, coming in a tough situation, needed a punch out, and he got it. Great job there, and he's a competitor. He's been in the big moments, played on really good teams, and I think that's the one thing for me that stands out is he doesn't let the moment get to him. He stays within himself, and he knows what he's trying to do when he goes out there, and has for the majority of the season executed on that.
What kind of reports did you get from Carmen's outing last night? Was it as good as maybe the line score indicated? I don't know if you ever talked to anybody.
I haven't talked to anybody about it, but 6 innings, 10 punch outs, sounded really, really good, and haven't totally had a chance to catch up with anybody on it, but looked like a phenomenal outing, and really glad to see him go down and have success in that first one.
What do you want to see him work on with his time down there? What do you want to see him do?
Yeah, that just continue to learn how to use his stuff as a starter and be efficient in those outings to get ahead of guys and then be able to put guys away. And sometimes that's not strikeouts, that's inducing weak contact. I think when we look at Paul's outing against Philly, he got the punch outs, he challenged Bryce with the fastballs, but it was a lot of early contact too, and he was going to the splinker and getting that type of weak contact outs, and I think that's something for all of our starters that we're looking for. Yes, we want the punch outs, but we also want to induce soft contact from the get-go.
Do you feel like being able to do what you've done the last 2 nights offensively, a little extra confidence going into tonight?
I hope so. It's contagious, and I think it's been building as we talk about. That 5th inning stands out to me, where that can be it's a really frustrating inning for the hitters, because you're hitting balls that hard, that far, and they end up being outs. And hitting isn't fair. Sometimes you're going to get the cheap one, but how do we continue to have that feeling, build that confidence out of squaring balls up, and know that it's going to result in hits eventually, and it's going to break through, and I'm glad that last night 6 runs, and like we said the other day, we weren't really caught up in the whole 4-run thing. It stinks, going through that, but it wasn't dialogue. It was knowing that we're going to come out of this and we're going to score. We want to score more than 5.
Does it feel like he is one of those guys you're talking
Oh.
about that might be due?
Yeah, I mean, you look at his swings yesterday, driving the ball to right field and driving the right fielder back, and that, it can be really frustrating as a hitter, and just, to stick with him and, have conversations with him to keep on going, because he's on a good path right now, and that's all you can do is keep squaring the ball up.
Donnie, Mitch has had some tough luck from a results standpoint. I mean, no pitcher in the league majors has fewer runs scored this year. How have you seen him handle that, and is it in a way good that it's happening to kind of a veteran guy, so the other guys on the staff see the way that he kind of like his demeanor doesn't really necessarily change based on external forces that are beyond his control?
Yeah, no doubt. He leads in that, and I think all of our starting pitching has done a good job of, through this stretch, just staying within themselves and finding ways to throw strikes, dominate what they can, and which is getting ahead of guys and trying to put them away. And I think that Mitch has led in that and has done a really good job. I mean, came out the other day, like we talked about, he's under the weather, goes 90-some pitches, finishes that 6th inning, and it's a 2-1 ball game, and gave us a chance to win. And that's what he's shooting for every time he goes out.
Better that it's a veteran guy that sort of has that circumstance happen to him with the lack of run support than a young guy who might get a little, who's still trying to establish himself, or Mitch has sort of been through a little more battle tested.
Yeah, definitely could be, and it's something that he's when you see his development over the years and learning how to do stuff like that, he's grown and gotten better as a pitcher, but gotten better in that mentality to be able to handle all kinds of different situations.